people need to be more than 17 years of age, weigh more than 110 pounds, and be in general good health. Most people can donate. Many people can donate. And so folks say, well, I have diabetes, I can't donate. That's false. I have high blood pressure, I can't donate. That's false. Well, I'm anemic. Well, it depends on your iron level on that particular day. So there's a lot of misconceptions about who can and who can't donate. Basically, the process is you show up at a blood donation site, and we will actually, hopefully, ideally, you would make an appointment in advance, because if you make an appointment in advance, then we can actually have a smooth running operation and it minimizes wait times. Basically, you make your appointment in advance, you show up at your appointment time, you read some reading materials. The reading materials talks about reasons why the people can't donate, and I've already mentioned some of them. For example, if you traveled in a malarial zone, you can't donate for a year. If you've traveled in England, if you lived in England rather, between 1980 and 1996 for more than 3 months, you can't donate. If you had hepatitis, you can't donate. So there's a couple of reasons why you can't donate. We give you the reading material to screen out folks who aren't eligible for those particular reasons. Again, many people are eligible to donate. As a matter of fact, most adults are eligible to donate. And then you would actually go through a procedure where we call it a health history booth, where we provide a mini physical. We'll test your iron level, we'll test your blood pressure, we'll test your temperature, and then we'll ask you a series of questions to ensure that you're okay to donate on that particular day. After that period, then you'll go on the bed and you'll actually give blood. People say, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of needles. Well, it's like a pinprick. It's really not that painful. It's just a second, and don't you think a pinprick, a little bit of pain, is worth saving someone's life? That's the fact, because if people don't give blood, patients in the hospitals can't be saved. After you actually are on the bed, then you'll go to the canteen where you have some nice juice and cookies, and you'll stay there for about 10 minutes, and then the entire process is done. Typically, it takes about an entire hour.
And of course, the reason for the milk or the orange juice rather than cookies is what again? Well,
we want to make sure that you're properly hydrated. You've given a pint of blood. Most people have about 10 to 12 pints in there. So we want to make sure your blood sugar level is up, and that's why the juice and the cookies are there, to make sure your blood sugar level is up, given that you just lost a pint. It's perfectly safe. We tell people, don't go run a marathon after you've given blood. Don't fast, because you need your strength when you've given blood, given that a pint of you is no longer there. But that's the general process.
You touched on it briefly, but I want to make sure that you get a chance to talk about the testing process that's done to make sure that the blood is safe for use. You can't say that every unit that's donated is completely safe, but you can say it's safer than it's ever been, I guess.
Sure. The blood supply is very, very, very safe. We make the blood supply safe through two ways. One is we ask a number of questions up front to screen out people who may be at risk of, who may have some risk factors that could endanger patients. That's why we ask questions about, have you had hepatitis, do you have syphilis, those kinds of questions. Then at the end product, once the blood is collected at the end of the day, there's a bag of blood, a number of bags of blood at a big blood drive, like about 150 pints we had through the Parker Center in the LA City Hall just the other day. Basically, we have the bags of blood there, and then those bags of blood will be sent to our main headquarters in Pomona. It'll be separated out, and tubes will be sent to our national testing labs throughout the country. Most of our tubes will go to Portland, Oregon, and there we'll test for a number of factors using nucleic acid testing, which makes our testing even more specific. And we'll test for HIV, hepatitis, syphilis, a number of other diseases to ensure that the blood is safe.
Now, I'm curious, what is your best donor pool? Do more men or more women donate? Older, younger, people who are involved in volunteer activities? Who?
It's about the same. Men and women generally donate about the same amount. Women, though, have to be take special care to make sure they eat iron-rich foods. One of the top reasons why people who show up to donate can't actually donate the day of the blood drive is because their iron level is too low. The standards that the Food and Drug Administration sets are based pretty much on male standards. So consequently, women have to amp up their iron levels in order to give blood. So typically we say eat broccoli, liver. Well, some people don't like liver so much. So dark chocolate, dark greens, those are some foods that you can eat to get your iron level up. So, but basically men and women pretty much donate about the same amount. With respect to age, I'll tell you, one of our top, people think, oh, the slacker generation, the young people really aren't about volunteerism. That's actually false. About 20% of the blood that we collect in Southern California comes from high school and college students. High school and college students really sustain the patients of Southern California. And consequently, when we have blood shortages, it's during the summer and winter, when school's out. So we've engaged in a number of programs to try to reach out to students, young people, to give blood during the summer. And we're trying, and if we hadn't engaged in some of those programs, our blood shortage would be even worse.
You've been talking about blood and donation, but you also need volunteers to help during blood drive. By the way, the volunteers don't actually take the blood, do they?
No, actually, that's trained medical personnel. We actually go through a very rigorous training for our medical assistants and collections technicians to ensure that they are trained in our procedures, which are approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Essentially, we need volunteers on every single blood drive. Typically, we need 2 volunteers on every blood drive. So if we're organizing on the order of 40 blood drives a day in Southern California, every day we need about 80 people to assist in the blood drive operation. The volunteers will greet the donors, say hello, say thank you so much for being there, and volunteers will be in the canteen to pass out the juice and cookies and to ensure the donors are doing okay after they give their blood donation. If you think about it, in Southern California, we have about on the order of 200 to 225,000 people regularly giving blood. We have another 8,000 to 10,000 people who are involved in volunteering to organize blood drives, and we have another 3,000 to 4,000 people who are actually volunteering. It is a tremendous volunteer organization just in Southern California alone. All of that volunteer energy basically keeps patients alive.
You just touched on something I want to make sure that it doesn't slip by people. You talked about people volunteering to actually organize blood drives. We'll get to the website and the phone number in a little while, but what sorts of people would be volunteering to actually organize, and what do they have to do?
Well, we call them our American Red Cross ambassadors because there are ambassadors to the organizations throughout Southern California. The schools, the businesses, the colleges, the hospitals, the religious organizations. We need volunteers who are actually a part of the community. It's a lot easier when you're asking someone to give a part of themselves, to stick a needle in their arm, or to have someone stick a needle in their arm. It's a lot easier to hear that from someone you know who's a part of your community as opposed to some random person from the Red Cross. Although our Red Cross people do reach out to strangers, it's a lot better and much more effective to have someone who's a part of your community ask you to donate blood, which is a very intimate act and requires a personal ask from someone that you know. So we will have, in an organization, we will have an ambassador. That ambassador is responsible for securing the logistics, getting the room, or in case a room is not available, a place where a bus can be parked. They are the ones who coordinate with us to tell us, we'll coordinate with them when our staff will arrive. They're the ones who will be there with respect to providing tables and chairs. And the most important thing, the absolute most important thing, is to getting people to sign up, to spread the word. This is true grassroots marketing. It means going out there and reaching into the organization to say, please, can you join me in saving a life? Can you give blood on this day? The ambassadors are critical to the success of the Southern California blood collection operation, and frankly, critical to blood drives nationwide.
In the beginning, you mentioned the Red Cross chartered for disaster preparation, response, recovery, things like that. But how did blood get into the picture? When was that, and who was responsible for that?
So basically, the modern blood banking era really began with the Red Cross, and Dr. Charles Drew was a real pioneer in setting up the blood bank. And it really occurred because the troops during World War II needed blood. And that's really where the modern or the 20th century blood collection operation really began, is thanks to Dr. Charles Drew. And from there, it really blossomed throughout the entire country because people realized, physicians realized, you really could keep people alive longer with blood transfusions. And frankly, when we talk about blood shortages, not only are fewer people donating, which is a problem, but the demands for medical technology to keep people alive is growing as people people live longer, as people want hip replacements and knee replacements, all of these procedures will generally require blood. So consequently, the need is continuing.
And certainly Dr. Charles Drew, a name very familiar to Southern Californians. Finally, I want to make sure that people, if they would like to donate blood or volunteer or put together a blood drive in their community, tell us how they get in touch, how they find out what to do.
It's a real simple number. Go to www.givelife.org, www.givelife.org, or call 1-800-GIVE-LIFE, 1-800-GIVE-LIFE. Call to volunteer, call to organize a blood drive, and call to donate blood. We really need your help.
And we really needed the opportunity to hear it all from you today. Cliff Newmark, American Red Cross, thanks for joining us on Council Week in Review.
Thanks so much.
Well, you've certainly gotten the idea by now that our blood supply is dangerously low. People are needed to donate now and in the coming weeks to prevent a medical disaster. Please help save a life. Donate now. Watch Council Week in Review for highlights of the week's meetings and listen for item numbers associated with those discussions you have an interest in. Then go to the World Wide Web and listen to those discussions using the new City of Los Angeles Video on Demand feature. Visit the city's website at lacity.org and follow the instructions on the screen. And remember, you can watch all Los Angeles City Council meetings live in their entirety on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays beginning at 10 a.m. On Sundays, you can watch the replay of all the week's meetings, also beginning at 10 a.m. Well, that concludes our program for the week ending July 20th, 2007. On behalf of Francisco Montano and everyone here at LA City View, Channel 35, I'm Jack Popejoy. Thank you for watching, and please join us for the next Council Week in Review.
Hey, buddy! You with the stupid hat! Come here. Closer. No parking! Do you know what happens when you park illegally on these narrow hillside streets? You block the street so emergency vehicles can't pass. Each year, homes are destroyed and lives are lost because of drivers like you who park illegally! And you know what else? You can get a citation. And you can be towed.
Help us get to the emergency. The life we save just might be yours.
How'd you know?
The ball called.
Hey, look out for the pothole.
A few years ago, I registered as a bone marrow and blood stem cell donor. Then, I got the call that I was a match.
I needed someone else's bone marrow to fight my leukemia.
I didn't know the person, but I couldn't say no.
My dad needed a bone marrow transplant to save his life.
There were a number of appointments and some discomfort, but it was nothing I couldn't handle.
I don't know who my donor was, but I want to thank her.
Think about being a bone marrow donor. It's all about a second chance at life.
LA City View, Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council. Today is Wednesday, July 25th, 2007, and we are here in the John Ferraro Memorial Council Chambers, room 340 of City Hall. We meet here every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., except for the first Friday of the month, in which we meet down at Van Nuys City Hall in our efforts to bring City Council closer to all Angelinos. I'm City Council President Eric Garcetti. I am joined today by my colleagues, Councilmember Alarcon, Councilmember Gruhl, Councilmember Huizar, Councilmember Reyes, Councilmember Weiss, Councilmember Wesson, and Councilmember Zine. We are awaiting one more council member, Ms. Hahn, to join us to achieve a quorum, or two-thirds of our council meeting. We are available online through the city's website at lacity.org, where we have live streaming video of our council meetings as well as archived access to our past council meetings. We're also live on Channel 35, and we welcome our viewers on Channel 35 as well as those who are viewing us on the taped showing this evening. Finally, you can always call in to the city's council phone service through the Information Technology Agency, and you can listen through your phone to our council meetings and any of our committee meetings as well, and that number is 213-621-CITY. Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruhl, Hahn, Huizar, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Zine moves and Mr. Wesson seconds. Without objection, that will be approved. Next order of business, please.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
All right. Mr. Alarcon moves and Mr. Huizar seconds. Without objection, those two will be approved. Next order of business.
Mr. President, would you like to go through public comments at this time?
Let's run through the agenda first, please.
Mr. President, there are several requests to consider, beginning with item number 11, Building and Safety, request to receive and file this matter inasmuch as the lien has been paid.
Okay. Without objection, colleagues, seeing none for item 11, we will receive and file that item per the request from Building and Safety Department. Next items. Or next request.
Next request is item number 29. There is a request to continue this to August 1st.
Okay, colleagues, item number 29. Is there any objection to continuing that till the 1st of August? Item 29. If not, that will be so ordered as well. Next item, please.
Next request is item number 39, and there's a request to continue this to July 27th.
Okay. Colleagues, item number 39, if there's no objection to continuing that till the 27th of this month, that will be so ordered as well. That will be Friday. We will take that up. Next items.
The last request is to continue item number 53 for 60 days to September 21st.
Okay, colleagues, is there any objection to continuing item number 53? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and continue that item. Next items, please.
Items number 1 through 22, with the exception of item number 11, are items noticed for public hearing. Items 1 through 10 are hearings for street lighting districts. The recommended council action is to continue the hearings and to present the ordinances on August 8th.
Okay, we have a card on number 3. And on the other items, if there's no objection, we will continue the hearings until the 8th of August. So ordered. Next items?
Mr. President, item number 22 is a finding for public convenience or necessity in Council District 13. A motion is required to grant the application.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move that. Ms. Gruhl seconds. That objection, we'll put that in when we take the consent of those items. Well, let's go ahead. Why don't we just open the roll on that one? Close the roll, and please tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Next items, please.
Next are items number 23 through 41, with the exception of 29 and 30.
I think we still have 12 through 21. We haven't called any special yet on those. Any specials, colleagues, 12 through 21? Any specials for 12 through 21? If not, let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those will all be approved except 21, which will carry over 1 week due to fewer than 12 members for the first reading. Next items, please.
Next are items number 23 through 41, with the exception of 29 and 39. Those are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay. Colleagues, specials for 23 through 41. Ms. Gruhl, then Mr. Weezer?
48. So.
Okay. We'll get to that in a second.
Next set.
Mr. Weezer?
33.
33?
33.
For Mr. Weezer. Mr. Reyes?
Yes, Council President, we can continue item 39 till Friday.
39, we did. We've done that.
Okay.
Mr. Zine, any special? Nope. Okay. So I'll have on the balance, if we can please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. 24 and 25 will go to a second reading, again, due to fewer than 12 members being here on a first reading of the ordinance. Next items, please.
Next are items number 42 through 58, with the exception of item number 53. Those are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, Ms. Gruhl wanted number 48. We'll call that special for her. Mr. Alarcon? What's up? Okay. We have cards on number 51 and on number 54 on this batch, so we'll call those special for cards from the public. Any other specials, colleagues? On the rest, we'll open and close the public hearings. If we can take up the balance, please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved, except for 42, which will carry over 1 week for a second reading of the ordinance. Next items, please.
Next are items 59 through 61, and those are closed session items. Would you like to hold that on the desk?
Yes, please. Let's hold the closed session items on the desk. If we can go to the next, if we can call roll for the special meeting and recess the regular meeting.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruhl, Hahn, Weezer, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, if we can take up the first item, please.
The first item is a planning and land use management issue, and there's an urgency clause associated with that. And there are also cards from the public.
Okay, we had a public hearing on that already?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody wishing to call 62 special, Mr. Zine? Mr. Zine? Mr. Zine, would you like to call 62 special?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll call that special for Mr. Zine.
That moved up on the priority?
Yes, we have one presentation before that, but we'll take that up second if there's
Thank you.
not an objection. Is there any objection to taking that up out of order after our first item? Seeing none, we will do that. Next item, please.
Next item is a closed session item.
Let's hold that on the table, please. If we can continue those back into the regular meeting and take up the continuation agenda now. First items.
Number 64 in the continuation agenda is a special presentation by the Community Development Department.
Okay, I will call that special for presentation, which we will take up. This was item number 1 from yesterday's agenda. Next items.
Next are items 65 and 66, and those are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay. And we had public speaker cards from those yesterday, so we will take those up as well at the outset to continue with yesterday's meeting if there's no objection. Okay? We'll call those special for cards from the public. Now it's time for a general public comment. If we can go out to Van Nuys for our first speaker. Brett Stone will be our first speaker, and then we'll come back here for Michael Hunt. Good morning, Mr. Stone.
Good morning, Council President, members of Council. First, I want to begin by apologizing. I was going to speak to you yesterday, but I'm in a lot of pain this week. My back is out, and I don't have my medicine, which is medical cannabis. I'm here to talk about that on 62. But because of the DEA actions and they're threatening to close dispensaries, I'm what's known as a compassion patient. And what that means is I can't afford to buy my medical cannabis, and so dispensaries give it to me at no charge. 3 of the dispensaries that supplied me with cannabis have closed just on the threat of the DEA, and that's left me without medicine since Sunday. And I've been eating Vicodins for the past couple of days, and I was just falling asleep here yesterday, and that's why I couldn't speak to you, and I'm hoping that you discuss item 62 so that I can stay awake to talk to you about that. I feel like I'm walking on marshmallows, and I'm very disoriented. I probably shouldn't be here to talk today. But it's really important that I speak to you, and it's really important that you listen to the people that talk to you about this issue. You're supposed to represent the citizens of Los Angeles, and I vote. And I applaud Mr. Zine for his press conference he was going to hold this morning. I wasn't downtown. I hope it went well, to ask the DEA to stop interfering with matters in Los Angeles that the voters have voted for. I want to thank the City Council, finally, for addressing the issue. I'm not happy with the results, but I'm glad that you did address it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Michael Hunt is our next speaker. After that, we'll go back to Van Nuys for Sharon Brewer.
Good morning, City Council.
Good morning.
What I'm hearing is leave the trees alone. Replace the liquor stores with trees, and everybody's happy. I think that's viable. You never heard nobody get in an accident by using trees. Give these people what they need. If it's medical that's going to help them, give it to them. I'm all for that. My next issue is the 4215 issue that segregates the boardwalk and actually puts us at each end and not equal opportunity for everybody that's on the boardwalk. I'm against that. I'm trying to be patient with my attorney, and I'm trying to be patient with the city attorney most of all. If you arrest somebody 24 times and then you tell them to sit down for a settlement conference, that don't make too much sense. It really doesn't. I think some of you guys seen the footage of that, so just please listen and pay attention to what I'm saying to you guys. We need a good city council. We need a city council that understands the truth and not the lies that the city attorneys have been putting to the people. I'm all for recalling Rocky. I think he's part of the problem, not being able to manage his department in a prosperous and a legal and a righteous way. You don't make the same mistake 3 times. Please help me out here. Mr. 11th District, you need to really take heed of this time. You know, it don't need to be an outside the parking lot thing. It needs to be directly. It needs to be directly with you. You need to take a direct involvement in this now. It's been too long. and I'm asking the judges to call for it in.
Sharon Brewer out in Van Nuys is our next speaker. Miriam Fogler will follow her. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning. I wanted to speak on the Burrito King. Basically, I know that Burrito King ended up suing the city sometime in the 1990s. Then there's a council file 97-0300 where Burrito King wanted to get the Woodley Lakes Golf Course, and it went to the Arts, Health, and one of the committees, and they said that they disapproved awarding the Woodley Lakes Golf Course food service concession to Burrito King. Recreation and Parks went ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Ms. Brewer. If we can call on you for item number 61, even though it's in closed session, but for general public comment, we can't take up items outside that's for items that are not on the agenda. So would you like us to put in a card for you for item 61?
I did put one in, and because you didn't call it special, that's why I went to doing it now.
61 has been called special, so don't worry, we will get to that.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. Well, now that I only have 56 seconds, I still am having a problem with the Encino Neighborhood Council election, and I'm hoping that somebody will look at Dunn's involvement. Also, there's still problems at Lake Balboa with safety issues and cars parking on the bike path that needs to be addressed, and Recreation and Parks is refusing to take and do anything about it. I've been trying to find out about a universal playground that's going in at Lake Balboa since June 28th and can't get anybody to go and respond to my email to let me know what's going on so I can then tell the public who are curious as to why they can't use the play area and it's fenced off. So there's problems with the different departments, Recreation and Parks specifically, and Dunn getting back to the public. Thank you.
Would you like a few more seconds? Or are you okay?
No, that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'm fine.
Miriam Fogler is our next speaker. And then Arnold Sachs here in council chambers will follow Ms. Fogler. Good morning.
Good morning. I like to be representing not just you, but also the public, because I'm here to be impartial and be objective. And I'm asking you to please put Prop R back on the ballot, repeal it, and go through the signature gathering for Prop R, and let's get the signatures from the people. Let's do it the same way that it was done, the proper way. This is the proper way, and do a single issue thing. Now, if you don't, then I guess David Hernandez and Ted Hayes, you need to take upon yourselves to put it on the ballot. No two issues to be placed on any issue no two issues at the same time to be placed on the city ballot ever again, and that you need to repeal the R yourselves, because obviously we have 15 aristocrats here who don't want to follow the process of democracy here, who want to make poor David Hernandez and Ted Hayes have to go to court. I think this is the most evasive and most corrupt way to doing this, because some of the unions, like 770, supported the Prop R thing, and you got Richard Reardon that gave money to the Prop R cause, and this is bad because you're also wanting to put this what you call procedural issues. That's what the county supervisors have, and I'm not going to stand by you and allow you to try to tamper with the Brown Act, as you already did on July 10th and July 11th. You haven't even posted any information, no agenda, no minutes, nothing on that 2 days that you were at San Pedro. That's why you want to hide yourselves, because you don't want to have community announcements, because you don't want the public to know anything. So that's why you're putting in procedural issues, and that you want to try to hurt us.
Thank you for those comments. Again, as it was announced last week, the minutes from the open meetings on July 10th and 11th will be online shortly, probably the beginning of next week, so we'll certainly announce that when that comes forward. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker, and after that will be Langanji Chase Siame.
Good morning, council members.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. I've come before you several times regarding the construction authorities for the MTA, and lo and behold, yesterday when I was leaving, I noticed on the bulletin board a motion, and I believe this could be the answer that I'm seeking, that and I didn't even know it, that the LADBS, the Los Angeles Department of Bullshit, meets...
Sir, if I could respectfully ask you to
I
please not use that
apologize for that, but that's an acronym that I see. I believe that I can speak before them in regarding the construction authorities because can't seem to get an answer from the city council. I respectfully ask Councilman Weston, who was with the State Assembly, and Councilman Alarcon, who was in the State Assembly, what are the criteria for creating the construction authorities, and if there is such a thing, why isn't it followed with the Eastside construction, the Gold Line Eastside extension? Again, we're talking funding. Almost $54 million a year in budget. That comes to a little over $3.7 million per council district for transportation-related subjects. Tell your constituents that you turned down $3.7 million a year because they needed to have a Foothill Construction Authority, which does what? A Pasadena Gold Line Construction Authority that does what? An Expo Construction Authority, when the Gold Line Eastside Extension cost over $800 million, which is more than the Expo line, more than the Foothill line, and way more than the Green Line would cost, because that's the shortest construction available. I'd also like to point out, I guess my time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I know I don't believe you're a direct constituent of mine or that we have direct authority, but again, my transportation deputy, who you've sat down with before, is available to answer those questions and to refer you to the right people, the MTA, which is the proper authority. We'd be happy to pass that on. Our next speaker is Mr. Siame.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is my observation that our life planning function has entered into a demise. I have come to this realization because my livelihood doesn't seem to make sense anymore, judging from the current trend of events. As is evident, I have not been spared in this whole scenario. Quite surprisingly, my unfortunate participation in this life construct was devised with the clear intention to discourage, instill a sense of lost hope, and further subjugate any social, economic, or career development I was to have made. In simpler terms, what I could be talking about here is identity theft, absolutely from the grandest to the minute scale. The decree is deplorable and is a clear insult to my personality. All my life I have worked hard, honestly, however, with a lot of reservation for this decree and what it stands for. Today, my day has arrived and my voice is heard, for this decree has reached a point of obsoleteness. The social, political, and economic climate is about to change for the better. In this effort, my participation is at the district courts, where I have lodged a complaint to our judicial authorities concerning these issues. I earnestly request for your support to move this case to the Supreme Court.
Thank you, sir. That closes our general public comment for today. We will take up the items that were continued yesterday when we lost quorum first. That will start with item number 64, which is a special presentation. And I called that special, but I believe Ms. Gruhl is ready to cue that up as well. If we can ask the Community Development Department to come forward for this presentation at this time to the table. Ms. Gruhl?
Thank you very much, colleagues. And as you know, I know Mr. Garcetti and what was talked about as well at the at our retreat was to talk about particularly various issues and get briefed on things, to have an opportunity to really have a dialogue and discussion. And today we have before us the Community Development Department on our state benefits to business and employees of the state enterprise zones, federal empowerment zones, and renewal community zones. And some of us are familiar, I'm familiar with it because of my past life at HUD and in the mayor's office, but a lot of the council members have some form of an enterprise zone and have benefited from that in the businesses. And so we thought this was a great opportunity for you, Richard, the department, to be able to make a presentation that explains to all of us the components and ways in which we might be able to expand, encourage, ensure we're getting our fair share both at the state and federal level. So please.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman Gruhl, and thank you, council members, for giving us the opportunity this morning to come forward and discuss with you what we think is a very important component of the portfolio of economic development programs and services that are offered at the Community Development Department. Some of you may know the State Enterprise Zone program was created a little over 20 years ago, and the program was established to help to stimulate the growth and development of businesses within economically depressed areas. And in fact, we qualified, the city of Los Angeles that is, qualified for the establishment of 3 zones back in 1986. There were the Mid-Alameda, the Northeast Valley, and the Central City State Enterprise Zones. At the end of that 20-year period, we were given the opportunity to reapply and to extend the zones under slightly different guidelines. And we put in an application that greatly expanded the State Enterprise Zone, and it also included a large part of Hollywood. So now we have the Los Angeles State Enterprise Zone that runs almost contiguous from the valley all the way down to the port. We think this is a tremendous improvement over the previous programs because, first of all, it's a lot larger, it's contiguous, and it captures all the areas that we think will be able to take advantage of the incentives that are offered by the program. This morning, Michael Uzon, who is our Director of Economic Development, is going to present you with a PowerPoint presentation to tell you more about the program and hopefully stimulate more interest in businesses participating. Michael?
Good morning, council members. It's a pleasure to be here to discuss all of our products and services that we have available to support businesses throughout the city of Los Angeles. So we're going to try to work through our technology here, and hopefully this will work fine. Okay, briefly, I'd like to go over today all of the products and services that are available to the City of Los Angeles businesses, which are located throughout the city. Primarily, our target markets are those which are economically distressed throughout the city, and also hit on the state enterprise zones, our lending programs which are available, our federal empowerment zones, federal renewal communities, our Los Angeles business assistance programs, and our work source centers. The first one I'd like to get into is the state enterprise zones, and I'd like to just echo what Richard has already mentioned previously. We had 3 state enterprise zones that expired in 2006, and when they expired, the state did come forward and provide an opportunity for cities throughout the state to actually reapply for a new state enterprise zone. These are actually critical zones for our most challenged census tracts and provide a number of different incentive products, which we were capable of obviously getting a new Los Angeles State Enterprise Zone designation. Currently, right now, we're under a conditional designation, and there's some aspects which we have to basically meet in order to get a final approval. However, we are moving forward with that, and the state allows us during this conditional period to actually take advantage of all of the programs, incentives, and tax credits that are available. Just briefly, some of the more important elements of the state enterprise zone that are available to businesses within these areas include the state hiring tax credit. The state hiring tax credit allows businesses to take advantage of a state hiring tax credit over a 5-year period, which drastically reduces their state tax liabilities for each individual that is employed from a targeted area. And also there's a list of criteria which we can discuss in more detail. The second most important element is most likely the Department of Water and Power rate reduction, which the city has provided as part of the state enterprise zone. That's a rate reduction that begins over a 5-year period at a 35% rate reduction. That is a significant reduction for those heavy power users that are located within the state enterprise zones. Additionally, other components include things such as the net operating loss carryforwards, net sales tax deductions, net interest deductions, and sales and tax credits. So briefly, I'm going to give you an overview of some of the areas and our accomplishments during the last fiscal year, which I think are important for you to understand. Currently, right now, we have 3 state enterprise zones located throughout the city of Los Angeles. Our first one is in the East Side State Enterprise Zone. It should be noted that our East Side State Enterprise Zone will be expiring this year. However, you have already given us authority to go ahead and begin the process of actually reapplying for a new enterprise zone. It currently encompasses 9,529 acres. Our accomplishments during the last fiscal year, we assisted 397 different businesses, and as part of that, we helped voucher 2,823 individuals throughout that zone. And I'm going to discuss those in a second as to what that means and get a little more detail. Our next zone is our Harbor State Enterprise Zone. And again, this enterprise zone encompasses 12,338 acres. Accomplishments to date from last year, the last fiscal year, were 263 businesses were assisted throughout that zone, and 3,271 vouchers were processed. And just let me mention that the important element about the processing of the vouchers is that it allows these companies to actually bring these individuals on, which are from targeted areas or targeted zones and have different backgrounds and are difficult to place in jobs. We do charge a fee for processing these vouchers, just as per the state's request. And in addition to that, we provide a $10 per application fee back to the state, but we retain $15 here to help us defer the cost of administering these programs. The next zone, which is our newest zone, we're under conditional approval right now, which we're working on, which Richard had mentioned, is the Los Angeles State Enterprise Zone. It replaces the expired Mid-Alameda, the Northeast Valley, and the Central City zones. Last fiscal year in the old zones, we were able to process basically 8,170 vouchers were processed, and we assisted 1,014 businesses. I think the most substantial part about this new designation which we have is we've increased our area by more than 135%. The previous zones represented about 20,423 acres. We were able to actually increase that up to 48,062 acres. And as Richard has mentioned, it includes regions such as Hollywood, the Northeast Valley, and the Central region. The combined outcomes during the fiscal year 2006-2007 year were that we assisted 1,674 businesses within these zones. We vouchered more than 14,264 employees. Assuming that each of these vouchers that are out there that we put through, the businesses are able to take advantage of 100% of the full credit available, that would represent an amount of approximately $449 million in direct assistance to these businesses throughout the city of Los Angeles. That is a very substantial number that we're proud of, and we're actually shooting and targeting for a higher amount next year. Let me tell you about some of our lending programs. The Economic Development Division administers all of the lending programs that come through the federal government with regards to the Community Development Block Grant, and this primarily includes the Section 108 loan program. The Section 108 loan program allows us to leverage our block grant ability. In addition, we're also responsible for administering the Industrial Development Authority in conjunction with the Industrial Development Authority Commission. They administer the industrial development bonds, the empowerment zone bonds, and also our nonprofit 501c3 certificates of participation. What are some of the outcomes that we saw last year with regards to our lending programs? We assisted in inducing and administering $418.2 million in bonds for CSCDA, which is part of our Joint Powers Authority. We induced or issued $42 million in empowerment zone and industrial development bonds. And we induced administered $31.8 million in 501c3 certificates of participation. With respect to the federal empowerment zones, this is another designation throughout the city, primarily encompassing our South Los Angeles region and portions of our downtown area, and we also have a portion out by the Hanson Dam area in Pacoima. They provide, again, federal tax incentives that, unlike the state tax incentives, are only applied towards your federal tax liability that's available. They, again, provide the increased 179 expense deductions, so if you're buying equipment or materials to support your business, you can actually accelerate those depreciation much quicker than you would otherwise. Again, the most important element is the federal tax hiring credit. Similar to the state enterprise zone, this is a credit that's applied over a duration of time against the federal tax liability that the businesses has against their income. The DWP electrical rate reduction is similar to what we have in the state enterprise zones, and then we have a waiver of business taxes. An idea of what the area looks like. I know the map's kind of hard to see, but each one of you have one individually. It's basically, again, it encompasses a large area within South Los Angeles, portions of the downtown core, and also out in the valley. Major outcomes for that. We can't really track the actual tax hiring credits that have been taken because that information is not provided by the IRS to us. However, we do know that we've administered $32 million in empowerment zone bonds during the last fiscal year. And so what I'd like to do is give you an example and let you hear an example of a company which took advantage of the federal empowerment zone, the state enterprise zones, and our federal empowerment zone bonds. This is going to be the American Fish and Seafood Company. The American Fish and Seafood Company is a company that was founded here in Los Angeles in 1947. They're a distributor of fresh seafood and related products. They support companies such as Ralph's Grocery Store, Trader Joe's, a variety of different restaurants around here that are both national and regional chains, and also some of our cruise lines. They had a situation where they came to CDD where they were growing, had grown significantly. They had into 6 distribution centers with more than 500 employees. They needed to build a new headquarters and were contemplating leaving the city, which would obviously be a major impact to us. They needed a state-of-the-art plant that can basically house their new headquarters. What was our solution? Well, we did a combination of things. We obviously, they're located in the eastern portion of the downtown core over in the industrial area, and they had actually a site that they had acquired some years ago when the company was originally founded. We were able to provide them with lending product through our empowerment zone that allowed them to actually facilitate and build this new headquarters, which they did not believe they had that opportunity to do here in the city of LA. They also took advantage of the state enterprise zone and federal empowerment zone tax incentives and credits. And what was the result? They constructed and equipped the new facility within the city limits, and we were able to retain those jobs here. I'm going to let you hear from Mr. James Dozaki, who is one of the founding family members of American Fish. Maybe I won't if the sound doesn't work. Okay. What this was a clip from Mr. James Dozaki, and Mr. Dozaki basically was explaining the benefits that were available to his company with American Fish. Those benefits enabled them to actually retain that company here in the city of Los Angeles. And as each of you know, we sometimes run into challenges with regards to companies staying here, given the expenses of our land. It's very, very difficult for a lot of companies to work within it, and these incentives provide those opportunities. Okay, moving on to the Federal Renewal Community. The Federal Renewal Community is another federal designated area that provides different tax credits and incentives. The most important of those being what's known as commercial revitalization tax deduction. That deduction basically enables a business who actually gets a certificate of occupancy on a particular building that they've gone through, renovated, rehabbed, or actually built from new construction from scratch, to actually take advantage of a credit, a direct credit against their federal tax liability. This can be substantial. Last year, we were able to get out the door approximately a little over $10 million in CRD, which was allowed us to retain 128 employees in the city. The major beneficiary of the commercial revitalization deductions last year was the Porsche dealership, which you may be familiar with down on Figueroa. So this actually helped them provide and move forward with that product. This is a map. The map represents primarily portions of the downtown core and areas to the south and south Los Angeles. Again, these are always in our most challenged census tracts throughout the city. And our accomplishments during 2006 to 2007, as I stated, $10 million in commercial revitalization deductions were issued, and that was associated with 128 jobs. I'd like to now just touch on some of our small business and micro businesses, the focus on those. These are the key generators of our general economy here in the city of Los Angeles and actually throughout the country. Small businesses and micro businesses are absolutely critical to our success in having a vibrant economic economy here in the city of Los Angeles. The first one is the micro enterprise component. Serving businesses throughout the city with 5 or fewer employers and annual sales of less than $200,000 in low moderate income communities. The services include helping them provide technical assistance by formulation of business plans and marketing plans, developing inventory and cash control systems, loan packaging, in some instances direct micro loans. And these are administered through our LABAP organizations, which are nonprofit organizations located throughout the city in 6 different locations. The next program, which is a component of the LABAP, is the entrepreneurial component. This serves new businesses or those entrepreneurs wanting to start a business in the city of Los Angeles in lower moderate income communities. Again, similar services are provided to them, although there's a little more hand-holding that goes through the process to allow them to formulate their business plans and marketing plans, provide the ongoing entrepreneurial training, and access to their initial capital. The final component of the business assistance program is our historic downtown retail component. What this is a targeted focus within the downtown historic core to actually bring in small businesses and retail elements here to the city to actually meet the growing demands of the downtown residents. It's been in operation for at least 1 year, and it's had an impact of having annual sales basically working with companies that have annual sales of less than $500,000 in the historic core. Just this year, earlier this year, was also approved a new retail area out in the Panorama City area. The CRA is actually funding that for the first year, so we're going to look and work directly with the CRA to help administer that based on our experience in working with the downtown historic retail core. So what has the outcomes been of the LABAP program? Through the entrepreneurial and micro enterprise components, we've actually assisted 2,526 clients that have been screened. There's been 3,690 counseling hours that have been provided. 190 loans have been approved throughout the year, and 141 direct jobs have been created or retained from that program. Through our retail component, we've assisted another 128 businesses, and 40 jobs were created or retained. The final element of our products that we have available that I'd like to mention is our WorkSource and OneSource centers. And although this is the one that's finally presented, it should be noted that this goes hand in hand with a number of our different products. They provide services through centers located throughout Los Angeles. These services include helping companies pre-screen job applicants, providing applicant referral services, providing customized training to meeting individual needs. They provide labor market data to assist in the decision process for businesses, and they provide rapid response programs to assist displaced workers. So what we've done is we've gone through, just on a high level, a lot of the products and services that we have, but I think what you'll find is that these products are absolutely critical for us providing support, incentivizing companies to retain their businesses here in the city of Los Angeles, or incentivizing them to go into areas which they would not go into on their own. It's a way to help us alleviate their risk, and although each one of these comes with different restrictions and guidelines, it is our goal always to work, with the individual members of council and also the mayor's office to ensure that we're coming up with solutions to these businesses. And we believe that by successfully implementing all of these products and services, that it helps overall from the city standpoint to increase the tax base and actually allow us to provide services to all of the various demands that you meet each day. So with that said, I'll close out the presentation and open it up to any questions to either myself or Richard.
Thank you. Councilmember Alarcon is our first speaker.
I don't want to rain on the parade, but we had a problem in the Northeast Valley application, and in fact, the application was denied. I'm particularly concerned about the East Side application that will be coming up. Did we figure out what happened?
So what happened last year is we actually, when we came to submit a reapplication to...
Could you hold my time, please?
When we went to resubmit an application for the new zone, there was two things that I believe went wrong with the submittal of the application. First of all, with the timing, we were forced to actually use internal city staff, which, quite frankly, every other city around the state had actually went out to external consultants, and we obviously understand what the benefit of that is.
Maybe you could explain that.
Okay, the external consultants provide a way to package and present the information that we have in a most effective manner. In addition to that, it's a matter of basically meeting the new needs of the state. The state actually changed some of the application requirements, which were different from our previous years. Additionally, they were asking for specific criteria that measured the direct results of the state enterprise zone. That was not required when these applications were submitted more than 20 years ago. As a result, it was not tracked that well. It's one of the questions that I asked when I first got back. And so what we've done is we've begun to track those more accurately to show them the successes that we have and actually why this is a viable program. So as a result of that, when we submitted our application, it was not scored in a favorable manner, and it required an extensive effort, obviously, from both the mayor and the council offices to ensure that we were successful in getting that application. So with respect to the East Side zone, learning from our past mistakes and ensuring that we're not going to do that, there's two steps that I think are absolutely critical, and we're moving forward with. So one is that we're doing a joint application with the county. The purpose of the joint application is to ensure that we have, one, the most compelling story to tell to the state in capturing the biomedical park area that actually goes across the city line and into the county. Two, we are actually working with an outside consultant to ensure that we'll have that success, and we worked very closely with the state to understand where our pitfalls were with the last application, and to ensure that we address those areas and that we have the highest probability of success with this application.
Okay, members, just let me share with you, as a state senator, I chaired the committee that oversaw the Enterprise Zone program, and historically, the problems, and this is no surprise, it's not new information, but historically, the Enterprise Zones that do not do well are those who do not track their information. This is well known. It was known when I was on the council, and we expanded the Northeast Valley Enterprise Zone, and it was known last year. So I do not understand how our community development department, that has grantsmanship responsibility probably greater than any other department in the city of Los Angeles, couldn't figure out that the application called for specific criteria to be established, or specific measurements to have been evaluated by the city. So I'm very concerned that, in fact, it wasn't because of the response of the community development department, but in fact a political solution that required the senator, the local council member, and the mayor to get the governor's attention to get him to create a new enterprise zone that didn't exist before. So I don't think we need to look for political solutions. These enterprise zones provide real substantive opportunities for us, but only if we measure them. And so I want to remind my colleagues, particularly those on the east side whose review is going to be coming up, that get the ducks lined up in order, make sure that we are measuring, that we have created measurable objectives, and that we are attaining those objectives, and let's not go through let's not have to go through a political process to establish business opportunities in our neighborhood when we know that these are viable businesses who should have the opportunities that were created in the enterprise zone. I am not happy about what happened in the Northeast San Fernando Valley, and my staff and I will be monitoring the success of that program very closely.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Councilman Alarcon. I stand because I need to know if the issues that we're pointing out that were pointed out by the Councilman Arcon, how have we addressed them for the East Side application? Did we delve into that criteria issue? And
Yes.
what did we learn? What were lessons learned, and how did we correct them?
Number one lesson learned, I think, was exactly what Councilman Alarcon brought up, is that we need to track the exact results and have a complete measurement in place. So we've actually developed that. There's a couple things that we're doing. One, we're implementing survey forms when we first start, right? I mean, it's just a simple question, talking to the businesses, but for these programs, are why are you locating here, or why are you continuing to be here? We need to understand how this is supporting them and their bottom line, and helping them stay within these areas. Two, we are tracking very closely, which is why we provided you the numbers today.
Please hold my time.
Of the number of businesses assisted and the actual employees assisted. And then what we're going to be doing next, it's a little more tricky, but we're going to actually try to quantify the exact tax impact to the city, because these businesses have remained there and they've increased their incomes. So we're actually following that very closely right now, and ensuring that that's included within the package. We're working with the consultants that are on board to write these applications.
May I just add on? As the amount of money has shrunk for programs like this, the competition has grown greater. There's a whole cottage industry that's grown up around being able to measure economic indicators. You have very smart consultants with sophisticated software systems that are designed to do that. We had never tapped into that resource before, but it is now available to us. We're aware of it. In addition to that, we've beefed up our own tracking system so that we can compete at a higher level with a lot of jurisdictions that are doing exactly that.
Given technology what it is today, the capacity to access the data you are working with without violating security or violating personal information, can the council office interlink with your database and or your systems so we can understand what you're doing at the street level? Obviously, 250,000 people in one district. I know the East Side, Northeast has a history of putting together federal and state enterprise zones. But as former Councilman Hernandez made observations earlier, where we are weak is how we integrate and communicate with departments, and how we use our own capacity to use discretion and creative incentives for inducing private investment. The example that comes to mind is parking. Always an issue in how we deal with small businesses, medium-sized businesses. It becomes an inhibitor when you do not meet code issues. But if you fall in this particular overlay zone, state, federal enterprise type of incentives, then perhaps you have a package where it makes sense to invest in that particular structure because it was built before planning was even put in place as a discipline. And that tends to hurt us because we don't fit the suburban model. We do not fit post-1950 standards of what makes it desirable to invest. And it's not just in parking. We're talking about sewer fees. If someone wants to put a laundromat, it's expensive to deal with the water issues. So what do? We have very limited laundromats that are decaying, that are places that aren't safe, and it's a blight in our community. So these are the kinds of issues that we should be able to access. And I want to know if we have the capacity to council to interface with your database, with your information, so that we know what the CAO's office is doing, what the mayor's office is doing. We get invited to stuff and we say, wow, do you know we're going to do this in your district? And next thing you know, it's something that we're being invited to as opposed to being part of. And those are the kinds of coordinating efforts we should be alert to. But I am very, given what has happened in the Northeast Valley, and knowing that we're now up for review, what is your gut telling you in terms of us being, how are we going to be viewed, and what do you think our outcome will be based on the improvements that you made in your application process?
Well, I think first of all, let me answer your first question. Your first question was, can we provide you the data? Yes, the data we're getting right now, we don't get any of that tax information, so that's, all that data is available to you. We can provide that and package it in a way so you can understand what the impact is on your particular communities. With respect to the question or the discussion about, kind of integrating and making sure that we have a cohesive economic model here in the city of LA. Definitely, that's been our biggest challenge. I mean, we've got to get better at that and communicating, and I think the departments are working together, and we're trying to make sure that we are inclusive of not only the council office but also the mayor's office on all of these, because it's going to require a more strategic approach and a much more bundled approach with all of our products and incentives. With respect to your final question around what I feel about the East Side application, I think that the learnings that came out of the last application that we submitted have all been incorporated. Not only that, we're actually trying to improve upon even those in talking and looking at some of the other applications that were submitted and working directly hand in hand, not only with our outside consultants, but working with our other city departments that work hand in hand with us, DWP, the CRA, whoever we need to get involved, we're going to make sure that we do that, and also bringing in the county. My gut feeling is that we're going to be successful, and I think that people will be surprised over the last application that we submitted of the improvements that they'll see and actually what we're doing and how it's going to impact the city of Los Angeles.
Will you be in a position to come to a council office and say these are priorities in terms of how we view our incentives, our investment strategy? This is how we're going to leverage the state enterprise zone. These are the candidate sites. These are the industries that we're focused on. Council member, what are your priorities? What are you working on? How do we cooperate with you so that we can have a win-win scenario? Will you have that ability to cover that type of an overview with the respective council members of those locations?
Councilman, indeed that is our goal, but it's even a broader goal than that, in that we're working now toward a citywide economic development strategy. This is a part of it, but that is indeed a strong cornerstone for building what we hope will be an effective citywide economic development strategy.
Yeah, and I think, and more important to note, that we didn't have on the application that we originally submitted. We now have gone through and did a very detailed economic analysis of the entire city as to what industries we should be focusing on and where we can actually build competitive advantage or have competitive advantage. That information will be shared with every council member, because I think it's absolutely critical to have.
I have city-owned property that are used for maintenance yards. A vast percentage of those lots are used for surface parking. Underused land, dormant land. For the department, they're saying it's very important and valuable that we keep what we have, but it's always been almost a fiefdom mentality of how each department wants to secure its own space and control it. I don't think we can afford that anymore, given a limited number of land that is available. I would love to see how we leverage our control of land to create a mixed-use, mixed-income environments that allows us to maintain our city functions, but takes advantage of our airspace and collapse these parking facilities into one site and free up that land that's being used for essentially just parking spaces and not being very productive. It's particularly true in my district because I have a large number of maintenance yards, and the city's become, quite frankly, the biggest slumlord in my district in certain pockets. And here you have state incentives, you have this great economic development strategy you described, but yet right in front of us is probably one of the biggest cost factors for investment is cost of land, and we own it. So that's something I'm hoping we could evolve into, and I'd love to have that kind of analysis and breakdown, and maybe even have some of the departments like Bureau of Sanitation, Transportation, and Fire Department look at their asset base and say, what are we really doing with our property, and are we really maximizing our return in our tax capacity in creating new business and creating mixed use and these mixed income environments? So that would be my challenge to you. I'm hoping we can reach that point. And when do you think you can come and visit us after the break?
We can definitely come and talk to you, and then obviously set up some follow-up meeting to actually devise those strategies and help you get there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Zine, for the first time. Mr. Garcetti? Okay, you didn't. Okay, Mr. All right, Mr. Zine for the first time, then Mr. Garcetti for the first time, and then Ms. Gruhl for the second time. Sorry. I'm sorry, it was Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I guess it was Mr. Zine's itchy finger over there. Right? Thank you. I wanted to thank you for the presentation today, and while very much acknowledging the concerns, because we have overlap in those areas as well as the needs in the Northeast San Fernando Valley, I also was the recipient of good news with the incorporation of Hollywood, which built on a number of tools that we had as well that are not necessarily under the purview of the Community Development Department, but we have the ability to completely waive our city's gross receipts tax for any entertainment-related business in our CRA area in Hollywood, combined with the good success that we've had here with our empowerment zone and enterprise communities as well. I think we're in a unique place that we want to let businesses know what we have out there, which was the purpose of doing this. If you need help with employees, we can help pay for new employees, train them, give them half of those salaries, work with great workforce centers that are in your neighborhood and provide that. If you want a tax break, we want you to locate here in Los Angeles. If you want to grow your business, we have the tools to do that as well. I spoke with Paramount Pictures just after we had this go through, and the impact on that employer, who's the largest employer in my own district, or very close with Kaiser Hospital, for Paramount Pictures, which are good, middle-class, high-paying jobs, immediately they knew that they could fold that back into reinvestment, and they're looking, in fact, within their studios of how they can grow even more jobs after years of seeing Hollywood jobs go elsewhere, either other neighboring cities here in LA County or completely out of the state and country in some cases. So really, as much as possible for those folks that are on Channel 35, they're really our audience today, those people who are employees of businesses, who are business owners, get in contact with the Community Development Department, find out where you are. Because just as we've had an effort, colleagues, in the City Council to deal with things like the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is money on the table for our lower income, hardworking residents here, we see too many of those residents not take advantage of that tax credit. We could literally we estimated close to $1 billion in our local economy if people just got the EITC that they deserve. Similarly, with our empowerment zones, we have too many businesses that don't realize the benefits that they can gain from them. That's like leaving money on the table. And for Los Angeles, which has ramped up its efforts to do better at the state level and the federal level, once we win these zones, it's very critical to take advantage. So we're working with our local chambers. We encourage CDD to do the same as you have been, and to really get that word out there, because we're the folks who can bring that gospel out within the communities and make sure dollars and jobs return to Los Angeles. So I just wanted to thank you for the presentation and keep up the good work in ensuring that we retain those, we expand them, and that we gain the new ones that we did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcetti. There are no more speakers in the queue. So, Madam Clerk, would you please open the roll? Two. Note and file? Okay. Without objection, we will note and file this report. Thank you very much. Next item.
Next item is item 65 on the continuation agenda, and that was called special by cards from the public.
Mr. Matthew Dowd. Matthew Dowd? All right, he's not coming forward. All right, Madam Clerk, there's no speakers in the queue. Please open the roll on that item. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Next item.
66, then 62.
Next item is item number 66, and that was called special by cards from the public.
Mr. Matthew Dowd. Outen Van Nuys. Miriam Fogler. Van Nuys. Miriam Fogler.
Yes, I didn't get heard on 51 and 54.
We'll be back on those items later, ma'am.
Okay, 66 is dealing with the UN for international justice. And you remembered that we put the gentleman from in Serbia, the president there, and then we had the Saddam Hussein. They wouldn't bring him to trial, but the point is, this is I don't want this to supersede our Constitution here, and in violation of any of our civil rights here, the Bill of Rights, namely the freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, the right to our freedom of assembly, the right to free press, all these things that we need in conjunction to need to be protected from the UN. And just letting you know, that we need to be vigilant and be aware with the UN how it can be very dangerous. At the same time, we cannot allow people, well, not people, they're monsters, like Hitler did, and now we got the one in Iran wants to destroy Israel. So we have to be very vigilant and just watch them and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, representing the nations and to represent from God, and to do the right thing and not to let the Holocaust ever happen again, never again.
Thank you very much, Ms. Vogler. If we can please prepare the roll on item number 66. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Mr. Zine had asked for item number 62, as I stated before, to go out of order. We'll take that up next. So I'd like to recognize Mr. Zine at this time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also, I'd like to reopen number 16. There's a language issue on this matter. If we could reopen 16 and continue it to August 11th.
Okay, well,
we need an interpreter on that matter.
Why don't we go ahead and open the roll on reconsideration on item number 16.
I'm sorry, August 16th. August 16th.
Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is before us, and you'd like to continue it to August 6th?
August 16th.
16.
Building safety needs to work it out with the...
Okay. That's a Thursday, so we'd be...
Mr. Building and Safety, Mr. Law.
Either the 15th or the 17th. What would you prefer?
I was told the 11th. You told me the 16th. 15th.
August 15th. Without objection, we'll continue item number 16, and we'll return back to 62.
Thank you.
Mr. Zine has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Laura. Okay, thank you, Mr. President. We had a news conference this morning on a matter, and a number of folks are in the audience regarding medical marijuana, medicinal marijuana. In 1996, Proposition 215 was passed, Compassionate Use Act, which permits medical marijuana. Individuals suffering from AIDS, cancer, multiple sclerosis, chronic pain, and other serious illnesses can receive that legitimately through this Proposition 215. And what we've seen in the news recently is that the Drug Enforcement Administration has taken aggressive action against the owners of properties, talking about the asset forfeiture and other activities such as arrests. What we've been working on for approximately 2 years is an ordinance to bring medicinal marijuana establishments under regulation. We've worked with the industry, the Americans for Safe Access have worked with us, with the police department, planning, building, safety, to come up with an interim control ordinance on medicinal marijuana dispensaries. What this medicinal marijuana dispensary interim control ordinance will do is prohibit the opening of any new medical marijuana dispensaries in the city of Los Angeles. There will be no further opening of establishments. During the next year, we will have a task force that will come up with regulations, and these regulations will govern the hours of operation, the locations, etc., so the medical marijuana dispensaries can work and conduct their business in a legal fashion. Also, we're calling for a moratorium, and that any existing, and there's somewhere between 200 to 400 existing medicinal marijuana facilities in the city of Los Angeles, that they must comply within 60 days to specific regulations. And among those regulations, obtain a City of Los Angeles tax registration certificate, a State Board of Equalization seller's permit, a property lease, business insurance, dispensary membership, and LA County Health Department permit if required. What we're simply asking for is the proliferation of these establishments with no regulation is negatively impacting communities. You can currently establish one next to a preschool, next to a church, next to a liquor store, next to a residential area. We need to have our zoning permit the establishment, but to do it in a fashion that doesn't conflict with a residential or a business community. We've met with the representatives from the community. Many of them are cancer and AIDS patients that rely on this. And the difference between medicinal marijuana and marijuana that people use to get high is that medicinal marijuana counters some of the devastating impact of drugs that people use to stay alive. nausea in particular, and medicinal marijuana eliminates that nausea so they can eat and function in somewhat normal fashion. Many of these people would be would they be in jail or they'd be dead if they didn't have the ability to survive, and that's what medicinal marijuana is all about. So what we're asking for is that the council support this interim control ordinance. Also, simultaneous in Congress at this particular time, the Hinchey-Rohrabacher Amendment is asking that the Drug Enforcement Administration cease and desist their action against medicinal marijuana in those states, including California, in particular Los Angeles, where we have regulations that are in place or are going to shortly be in place. So I would ask that we support this. In addition, once this passes, I'm going to be sending a letter to the DA administration asking them to cease and desist and work with us and not against us in trying to come up with a control mechanism so people who are in need of medicinal marijuana can utilize that without fear of arrest, and they can live as productive life as possible. You can do that after they vote. Thank you. And someone has asked, you're a member of the LAPD, police officer for 39 years. Why would you support something like this? I would support something like this because I know that law enforcement has other activities they can involve themselves in. In the city of Los Angeles, we have a lot of crime. We have gangs. We have violence. People who are sick, who need medicinal marijuana, don't need to fear arrest by members of the Los Angeles Police Department. And I will... Chief Bratton and the LAPD support what we're doing in this. And I commend Chief Bratton and the LAPD for cooperating in this endeavor. So what we simply ask is that this council approve this, that we put this in place, that we work with the industry, the legitimate medicinal marijuana facilities, come up with reasonable ordinances so people who need it can get it and not fear arrest, not fear going to jail, not fear that establishment being shut down. So the bottom line is for this body to hopefully support this. And I want to also acknowledge Janice Hahn and Bill Rosendahl, who are joint signing a letter with me that's going to go to the DEA, asking them to not do enforcement at medicinal marijuana clinics. And that does not mean that we're not asking the DEA to go out and enforce the drug laws when people are selling illegal drugs, cocaine and other heroin. We're not asking DEA not to do their job. We're saying medicinal marijuana needs to be treated in a different category. So that is before us. Mr. President, I would entertain, I think we have a number of questions from members who attended, and I want to thank the public who have attended our meetings on this. Also Brian Perry from my office, who worked with the Americans for Safe Access to help bring this about. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zine.
And we open a public hearing on it for...
Okay, we had 21 cards, so we had a public hearing on this. Your staff informed me that would like to have 3 speakers on each side.
That's fine.
Okay, so we will go ahead. A number of the cards are filled out without a for or against, so there's some that are clearly on the for side, so I will call on those first. If there are more folks that are on the against side that didn't check off for or against, please let me know. And we do have one, though, that so far is against. The first speaker will be Don Duncan, coming forward. And then Sarah Armstrong will follow Don Duncan. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President. Council members, thank you very much for hearing us this morning. I would like to also thank Councilmember Zine for his foresight and his leadership and persistence in moving this issue forward. Americans for Safe Access is determined through research and through talking with elected officials and city officials around the state of California that regulations reduce crime and reduce nuisance activity and complaints from neighbors around medical marijuana facilities. And that's very important because medical marijuana dispensing collectives like those that are now opening in Los Angeles are a proven method of getting medicine to the people they need, a community-based solution to safe access that's mandated by Proposition 215. It's very important as we continue the work to implement Proposition 215 in California and to change the federal laws that we have a safe space provided by regulations and protected from misguided federal law enforcement. And so it is very important that the City Council of Los Angeles, with Councilmember Zion's leadership, oppose the DEA effort to intimidate property owners and to shut down medical marijuana facilities before we can harmonize federal law with state law. And so I want to thank those of you who are joining Councilmember Zine and encourage the others of you to sign on to that letter so that we can tell the DEA to stop intimidating these landlords and to allow the City Council to complete the important work of regulating medical marijuana facilities in our city for the benefit both of the patients and of the neighborhoods. I also want to thank you and urge you to continue to support the Hinchy-Roybacher Amendment in Congress right now, a first step towards stopping the DEA raids and letting cities like Los Angeles implement the Compassionate Use Act. So thank you very much for your support this morning and for your ongoing support through this process.
Thank you. Sarah Armstrong will be our next speaker, to be followed by Yamita Bolanos.
My name is Sarah Armstrong. I sit on the working committee to draft the permanent ordinance for Los Angeles. Tomorrow we begin the very important work of doing this. I'd like to first thank Councilman Zine and Garcetti for coming down today and taking a strong stand against the malicious tactics of the federal government, particularly the DEA. As most of you are aware, some very, very fine clubs, very compliant clubs, have had to close rather than put their landlords in the very difficult position of deciding whether or not they would like to have their property seized. I would call on all members of the council to take a strong stand, to give the working committee the time and the space it needs to draft tough, good regulations, the kind of regulations that will make the DEA not needed in Los Angeles. If you will help us with this, I promise you the kind of regulations you can all be proud of. But please, contact the federal government, particularly the DEA, and tell them that Los Angeles is not a place where patients are allowed to suffer and die because they cannot have safe access. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Yamita Bolanos is our last speaker from the Four side.
Hello, my name is Jamilet Bolaños. I am first a patient. I'm a liver transplant recipient and I'm a cancer survivor. I'm also a dispensary owner-operator whose landlord got a letter. And I'm begging you guys to pass this moratorium today because we need regulations. I'm part of the Greater Los Angeles Caregivers Alliance, and there's a lot of clubs that are standing with us. We want regulation. We just want you to give us the rules so that we can follow them. I want to thank Councilman Zine for championing our cause. Thank you so much. You don't know how much I appreciate what you're doing for us. Thank you so much. And I urge the rest of the council to please vote for this moratorium and give us regulations. It's what we need. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our first speaker that's filled out an against comment is Desiree Hawkins. Come forward.
Good morning. I'm Desiree
Good morning.
Hawkins. Thank you to all the council members, specifically Councilmember Zine, who has put great effort into this. I'm a patient advocate. I'm representing Patient Advocates Network. I'm also a caregiver in this city. So for me, having access to medical marijuana and being able to have access for other people in order to carry perhaps a larger amount in front of the Los Angeles Police Department and the smaller jurisdictions around the area, it's very important that I be able to have safe access. I do not have a problem with creating a moratorium in order to establish rules. I do not have a problem at all with having dispensaries. I think it is very key for the people in this city. I do have one problem with one thing. That is that the dispensaries need to be able to have written into this that they can be able to move in order to remain safe against the DEA's raids. And so it's very important that we be able to have some sort of flexibility in the locations written in for the dispensaries. So otherwise, I have full support of the moratorium in order to establish regulations for, as we say, a growing business here in Los Angeles, for us to be able to all have safe access. So I do appreciate your considerations, and once again, my biggest focus is upon safety, and that would be pushing through the Hinchy-Rohrabaugh amendment so that we can have full protection against the DEA's terrorism. So if you could please support this on a massive level, thank you very much.
Are there any other speakers that are against this? We have a number that didn't fill out for or against. Are there any against? We want to make sure we afford the opportunity for any opposing viewpoints? Okay, if not, I'd like to read to the record the names of the others who filled out speaker cards. Brett Stone did, Barry Kramer, Sarah Slotkin, Ann Ramirez, Richard Kearns, Jeff, Mike Gray, Richard Eastman, Elliot Katz, Lenny Fisher, Jenna Cutler, Degay Coiti, Miriam Fogler, Agnes Sakebi, Duke Smith, Chris Fuso, and Michael Hunt. So with that, we'll close the public hearing on this, and first I'd like to recognize Ms. Hahn. Ms. Hahn?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I certainly rise to support what you're doing, Councilmember Zine, and I think it's really great that actually you're the one championing the cause to make sure that those who need access to these medical marijuana dispensaries are able to get it safely and, again, without fear of being harassed, and that the landlords that are involved in this are not pulling out because of the harassment they're getting and the threats that they're getting. But I love it that you're a good Republican, you're a good law enforcement officer, and yet what you're saying is, what the DOJ folks are doing is not good law enforcement, and it's certainly not humane in any way. And I think it's important that today we say in a strong voice that we don't think that they ought to be using those kind of tactics on what we in California have declared to be legally safe dispensaries. And after this vote, I'm going to introduce a Rule 23 where we in the City of Los Angeles will have our voice heard back in Washington, D.C. as they are debating right now the Hinchy-Rohrabacher Amendment. But I think what we're doing today is very responsible and is very right. We're sending a couple of messages, but I think they're very consistent with what we ultimately want to do, which is to provide safe access for those who desperately need to be relieved of the pain and suffering that they're enduring. But there certainly have been concerns, I think, about where these facilities are sited. There's concerns about their locations, and are they too close to school facilities or whatever. So I think it's good that we do this ICO 1 year. Hopefully we can answer a lot of these questions within 1 year, but if we need more, I guess we have 2 6-month extensions. But let's really make sure we put into place good regulations, safe regulations, good parameters, so that as we move forward, we don't really have to keep debating this. We don't really have to keep putting up with tactics by other agencies that put people at risk for their very survival and their dignity as well. So I applaud you, Dennis, and I know Tom was a part of this for bringing this forth and championing this. And I wish we had 12 members here today so that we could do this once and for all and get it going, but we don't. So we'll vote on it once, and then we'll vote on it again next week and make this the current law. And again, members, after this vote, we want to take up the Rule 23 where we can tell Washington, D.C. how strongly we feel about the Hinchy-Rohrabacher Amendment, which will make sure that those funds are not used to threaten and harass people in legally sanctioned medical marijuana dispensaries. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. We have 3 speakers on the queue, and just to elaborate on that point that was made by Ms. Hahn, under council rules, any ordinance requires 12 votes or more unanimously on the first reading. If it does not, but receives nevertheless a majority, it carries over 1 week, and then a simple majority, just 8 votes, non-unanimous, is required for its ultimate implementation and passage. So Mr. Rosendahl is our next speaker, and then Mr. Alarcon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, indeed, I signed the resolution with Janice Hahn that Dennis Zine has provided leadership on. First, I want to thank you, Dennis. You're the right guy to say this, being a police officer, appreciating the laws and the rules, and knowing we're in a huge conflict right now, that we need to be clear as a city where we stand on this issue. Thank you for your leadership on that. There's two parts to it that make sense. One is just on a very district level at the moment. There's a structure at 2524 Pacific Avenue where they want to use it as a dispensary, and it's not in the right zoning, it's not in the right place, and frankly, it doesn't belong on that particular place. A few blocks away on Lincoln, there are a couple of other places that would work, but this would cause more traffic and problems. And so we're dealing with the idea of the moratorium from that perspective. We need to understand and we need to set up rules and regulations that we as a city can live with. So that moratorium has value on that. The second part, though, is a lot more difficult to deal with. You know, on a personal level, I lost a partner to AIDS, and frankly, medical marijuana kept him alive and able to function and to eat and to survive. Unfortunately, the federal government has made marijuana totally illegal, period. And they've spent no money on research about the medicinal usage, possibly, of marijuana. Mr. President, it's a big joke. We have 172,000 people in our prison in this state. We have 2.2 million people in prison across the nation. We have 25% of the world's people incarcerated, or only 5% of the world's people, and a lot of it has to do with drugs. And a lot of it, frankly, in the last few years has to do with marijuana. And there are people who are being destroyed by the law, the federal law that exists. It fuels the underground. The outrageous discussion we've been having about gangs. These gangs get funds from illegal drugs. They set up territories. If this whole issue was discussed in Washington with real leadership, talking about health issues, talking about addiction issues, and not making these criminal issues, we wouldn't be filling our prisons with people who shouldn't be there. Look, those of you who know that in 1996, we the people in California approved 215. I actually was the TV guy then. I did all kinds of debates and discussions on it, and the people supported it, right? But ever since that moment, the federal government has come into our state and to every state and has raided clinics or raided people and abused people, and they got away with it. I mean, they do it in West Hollywood all the time before we even started the process in our city. So, you know, the Rohrabacher strategy, which of course I signed that letter as well, to make some clarity on the issue, is a bigger issue. The big elephant in the room is this. The drug laws of the 80s are bad laws, period. We need elected officials in Washington that look at these laws again, take a deep breath, and do more study on it and discuss it to the degree that they need to, because right now we're spending more money on prisons than we're spending on schools. We're spending more money on prisons than we're spending on road infrastructure, on health care, and all the issues of importance to our great nation. So we need federal leadership. And this should give us federal leadership where we, as the second largest city in the nation, say we've had enough of the hypocrisy and the double dealings that have been going on.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl.
In concluding, Mr. President, I just think it's a no-brainer for us to go on record, but we're not going to solve the issue here. We need our congressional delegations, we need our presidential candidates, and all these people to start talking about this issue with honesty and integrity and take us to the next level, which is a much more enlightened position, and get rid of those bad laws of the 80s. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Our next speaker is Mr. Alarcon. After Mr. Alarcon will be Mr. Huizar.
Yeah, I might be with you on almost everything you said, except at the very end. I do believe that we can impact the discussion at a federal level. And I also want to commend Councilmember Zine. And you know how I am about patronizing our colleagues and complimenting them, but every once in a while somebody takes a step and puts their image out there and says that's secondary to the good of the public. Dennis, I know you're a tough. I know you're a tough cop. I served with you on the board of Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. I know you really do not, that you really have a passion against those who drink and drive, use marijuana and drive. And yet you are the vanguard for us on this issue, and most appropriately so because you know the law. And I think you have a very good. Your leadership on this is just what we need for this particular issue. I do think it's important for us to have a clear distinction between what is before us with regard to the medical use of marijuana versus the decriminalization of marijuana. And again, you and I might agree on the decriminalization of marijuana, but I think it's important strategically for us to stay online with the message about medical marijuana. That debate is an old debate, and the federal government just can't put that elephant down as much as they can try. The will of the people will, I think, overcome them with time. But certainly we can expedite that time with this kind of approach that Mr. Zine has presented. So I stood up for two reasons. One, to thank Mr. Zine for his leadership on this, and two, to make it very clear that my position on this is that we do need to move forward with the opportunities for those who can find some comfort through the use of medical marijuana to have the opportunity to do that here in Los Angeles. And also, I do agree that we have to expand the debate about decriminalization, because I think we have far too many violent criminals who are excluded from the penal institutions who should be in there because we are sticking nonviolent, low-level drug offenders in serious penal institutions and making them furthering their criminal education as opposed to giving them rehab if that's what they need. And so I do agree with you that that's a debate that we should have. But in this case, we should focus on the medical marijuana issue, and that, I think, and Mr. Zine has done an outstanding job with that. Thank you.
Mr. Huizar.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I support this motion. I certainly support Proposition 215, and just want to echo something that Bill Rosendahl said, and that is, we talk so much about dealing with our gangs, but until we address the drug issue, especially methamphetamine that is taking over our streets, we're not going to get to the core of dealing with young people who are joining our gangs. But I did have one question. In Plum, we discussed how there's additional crime, or maybe a disproportionate amount of crime, around some of these dispensaries. And I wasn't quite clear. Is there someone here from LAPD? I know there was at Plum. I wasn't quite sure why, and we couldn't answer that question at the Plum Committee. If we're doing this legally, and we're handling this, you get certified, etc., why is it that we do see disproportionate amount of crime around these dispensaries? I asked this question at the Plum Committee. We said we didn't have an answer, but I had asked if we could hopefully get that answer before council. And I know we didn't. I'm not sure. We didn't see the statistics here with us, but there was a report that mentioned that. Do you have any comment on that?
Kevin McCarthy, Los Angeles Police Department, Captain Narcotics Division. We don't have any information about an inappropriate or disproportionate amount of crime around dispensaries. It's not something we'll particularly track. Crime around dispensaries. What typically we look for is spikes in crime, even small spikes in crime, and to determine what is the cause of that spike. And if we see small spikes in crime and we determine is a dispensary around, then we'll analyze and determine if dispensary is the cause.
Okay. I thought in Plum Committee we read a report. It was in a report that we got, and we acknowledged that that statement was made, but you're saying now that there's no real evidence to suggest that there's additional crime around the dispensaries.
There's been some crime around dispensary. I don't know that it's disproportionate to drugstores or liquor stores. I couldn't tell you that.
Okay, thank you. That was just something that I would want, when this comes back to us, to inform our processes as we create more policies around this. But I wanted to find out if, in fact, that is the case, and hopefully we could do more research into that. Why is that? And to alleviate any of these communities that do have these and how we could alleviate that from happening if, in fact, we're doing this illegally, and what are the causes of any additional crime that may happen.
We'll take a good look over the next year.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mr. Zine for a second time.
I'd like to just add, there may be a question regarding current facilities, and just to emphasize that if a facility is currently in operation, what we're requiring them to do within the next 60 days, obtain a City of Los Angeles tax registration certificate, State Board of Equalization seller's permit, property lease, business insurance, dispensary membership, and LA County Health Department permit if required. That's what we're requiring for the existing facility. So if someone's in business today, we're not saying they have to close their doors today, we're saying they must comply with this within the next 60 days. If they do not comply in the next 60 days, then they can be shut down. At the same time, we're saying no new establishments can be open. So if they're in business now, the 200 to 400 that we've heard, comply with this in the next 60 days. And if they need to have assistance, we can assist them with the imposition of what we're requiring. But no future businesses can open once this passes. So we're not going to shut everything down. And again, with Ms. Han's support of the congressional action and our letter that's going to the DEA administration, hopefully those individuals who are using medicinal marijuana can continue to use it without the fear of arrest, and the owners of the property don't have to fear about the asset forfeiture or going to jail, so we can keep it status quo while we come up with these new regulations, which will be beneficial to the community, beneficial to the patients, and beneficial to the people of Los Angeles. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zine. It's our last speaker on this. If we can please prepare the roll on this item and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That means that that's a unanimous vote for the first reading. Next week we will have a second reading. It will require just a simple majority of 8 votes, but we do expect to have a full quorum then, and so that will go over 1 week. Thank you all very much. Mr. Huizar has asked for number 33 out of order if there's no objection. It's just number 3, which is before that, which we'll come back to for one speaker card. I know Norma Welch is out there, and if you'll just hang on, we'll take 33 up, and then we'll take back number 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Is it possible to reopen the hearing? I think we only have a couple of speakers
Sure.
on this
Hold
item.
on 1 second, Mr. Huizar. I know that the Rule 23 that was also on the marijuana issue was right here, and I know you've been very patient, but as long as folks are here, if there's no objection on that.
Sure.
To folks who are in the audience, we are taking up a motion as well on the Rohrabacher amendment, if you want to hang out for 1 second. Ms. Hahn, do you want to speak to the findings of that special item?
Yeah, colleagues,
Special
this
two.
is, I'm asking for Rule 23, which will suspend our rules, because according to Jim Seeley, our federal lobbyist, the House is currently deliberating over the Commerce Justice Appropriations Bill, which they'll be voting on sometime late this evening. So one of the amendments in this bill is it's from Hinchey from New York and our own Dana Rohrabacher from California. It's to cut the funding for DOJ efforts to interfere with fully permitted medical marijuana clinics. So there's no time for us to wait until Friday or next week to take a position on this matter. I think the City of Los Angeles needs to have a loud voice as they're debating this amendment, because this is part of what we're opposing, is this kind of federal intervention, harassment, threatening arrest for legally permitted dispensaries. So that's why I'm asking for Rule 23. That's my argument, why we should take it up immediately.
Anybody else wishing to be heard on the findings? If not, let's prepare the roll on the findings and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is now before us under our Council Rule 23. Anybody wishing to be heard on the substance of it? If not, let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved, and we will send that forthwith to the mayor for his signature. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. And Mr. Huizar, you're asking about reopening the public hearing? If there's no objection, we have 6 speaker cards. Is a minute each okay, or that's all?
Yes, some have left, so I think we could just call them. I know some of the speakers have left already.
Okay. Carrie Gatlin is our first speaker. If you'd like to come forward, we'll have a minute each. I know it's a little bit tight, but we appreciate your understanding, since we had the public hearing before, Alexandra Moody will be next after Ms. Gatlin. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to talk about the Second Chance Act this morning. Many of you probably already familiar with the Union Rescue Mission and its affiliate Imago, who participated in a demonstration project by the federal government called the Ready for Work program. It was a reentry program that provided job training, placement, housing, mentoring, case management, and family reconciliation, mental health services, and a variety of other services for those coming out of incarceration that have recidivated over and over again through our criminal justice system. It was a very successful program. As you know, there are about 750,000 adults and juveniles being released from incarceration or detention every year, and studies show that without the appropriate support services, about 70% of those men and women can be expected to return to prison within 3 years. Comparatively, last year, our Ready for Work program produced a recidivism rate of just 15% compared to a 70% national. Incredible statistics, and we encourage you to strongly support the Second Chance Act, because tomorrow our congressional delegates in Washington are going to vote on this, and they need to see an endorsement this year from the City Council in Los Angeles.
Appreciate your comments, Ms. Gatlin.
Thanks.
Alexandra Moody is next, and Alan Richards will be after that.
Hello, everyone. My name's Alexandra. I'm an ex-parolee, and I came through the Ready for Work program. I'm now a staff member of the Union Rescue Mission and proud of all that I've accomplished. But I had a lot of help from the Ready for Work program, because there's not a lot out there for people who are coming out. There's not that need that we have, that for people to give us a second chance, people to teach us interview skills, to give us the confidence again to go into job interviews, even though we've made bad choices in the past. I made some bad choices, but I was very determined to change my life, but I didn't know what outlet I had. And when I found the Ready for Work program at Imago, at the Union Rescue Mission, I found people that were willing to help me, give me clothes for the interview, teach me interview skills, give me the confidence back that I didn't have anymore. And I was able to, like I said, become a staff member, and well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments today. Alan Richards, and then Jose Perez.
Good morning, President Garcetti and council members. I'm speaking on behalf of the ex-offenders in the greater Los Angeles area. I've been incarcerated a number of times, 5, and I'm a father of 3. Through the funding, such as that's coming through the Second Chance Act of 2007, many ex-offenders like myself have an opportunity to gain the tools and services and assistance needed to reenter society and become an asset to our families and our communities instead of a liability. I'm a student at Amity Foundation, and through the funds of this initiative by Councilmember Weisar, ex-offenders such as myself have a second chance to break the cycle of recidivism. I don't have to be that repeat offender any longer, and I'm thankful to the opportunity that we're given through these organizations and through the services that have been offered by this council and by the federal government and initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jose Perez is next, and then Jose Egorbide.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and Council. I come before for the proposal of item number 33. I believe that the Second Chance Act of 2007 will be a great idea to take in effect. Myself, an ex-offender that has been to prison 5 times, is now coming to realization of the meaning of life. My whole lifestyle conducted of drug use and criminal activity. I've been lost for the period of 15 years and no understanding of who I truly am. Now, with the bit of funding and the help of Amity Foundation, I have a new meaning of life, an understanding now of who I truly am. Amity Foundation gave me a chance to the to the understanding within myself that I am somebody. I am 33 years of age and a father of 2 beautiful children. With the funding that is coming out of item 33, I believe that with the new generation coming up, it'll help us out a whole lot.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Jose Igurbide, and then Mark Fawcett. Your last
President, council members, City Attorney's Office, along with LAPD and service providers, Department of Mental Health, the Public Defender's Office, and the Sheriff's Department over the last 11 months in Skid Row have been looking at alternatives and expansion of street outreach, pre-filing diversion programs, and post-filing diversion programs for mentally ill and nonviolent addicts. And one of the major struggles or one of the major challenges has been funding or lack of funding for these programs. We believe that given the demonstration grant opportunities for local governments under this Second Chance Act, that we would be able to utilize federal dollars to expand those programs. Carolyn Phillips, Deputy City Attorney with our office, is also here, and she can tell you briefly about our street outreach program.
I'd like to tell you about 3 people we've tried to help as prosecutors last year without resources to do so. An elderly man who calls 911. May I continue? And uses the resources of our paramedics and fire department. He called 9 times over the past several years, has dementia, was stuck in a revolving door criminal justice system. We helped get him to treatment and housing. A chronically homeless woman who suffers from a delusion that she must remain homeless in order to collect on a lawsuit, which she believes she's a part of. With the assistance of Public Defender's Office, psychiatric social workers, and the court, she's been in housing for over 30 days. Yesterday, we conducted street outreach to, again, a chronically homeless addict. She's been an addict for 30 years. We went with psychiatric social workers, public defender, and the prosecutor together, and a law clerk contacted her and brought her into housing and services she was not able to obtain through our revolving door criminal justice system. We would ask your support of efforts where we can do more work like this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our final speaker is Mark Fawcett.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Fawcett. I'm project director for Amity Foundation. We have a 200-bed residential facility for men and women that are on parole and are homeless. I want to point out that out of those 200 men and women, they represent over 300 children. A couple of the men in our facility spoke a few minutes ago. Los Angeles has had the courage to recognize that doing reentry well affects every aspect of our city. We must make this voice heard in D.C. The recent strategy for gangs, as was recently pointed out, recognizes this, that reentry is a key component into solving the gang problem in Los Angeles. As a city, we must learn to weave these men and women coming out of custody back into the fabric of our community. It is smart public policy on health, on crime, and on families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker from the council on this is Ms. Hahn. Okay. Oh, sorry, Mr. Huizar, if you want to continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First, I want to thank the speakers who came out today, who spoke so eloquently about the importance of getting this funding from the federal government for them to reallocate these funds that will save thousands of lives. And I want to thank not only the speakers, but people who are doing work out there to help folks get control of their lives. And congratulations to those people who are now have re-entered society and doing good work. We really applaud you. And I know that it probably wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for funding like this and for organizations who are helping you do that. And you guys are examples of what's possible. Colleagues, we know how important it is to have funding for re-entry programs. It's good for public safety and it's good for people who want to change their lives. And the startling statistic is that nearly 2/3 of released prisoners are expected to be rearrested for a felony or serious misdemeanor within 3 years of release. This Second Chance Act, which will be acted upon shortly in Congress and possibly before August 3rd, before they go on break, is so important to continue the funding necessary to change these people's lives. I hope that we could pass this unanimously, move it forthwith, and allow the $80 million in grants to be dispersed so that Los Angeles has funding available. It's not enough after you disperse that money, but at least we'll have some money available to change people's lives here in Los Angeles. Thanks again to the speakers. We appreciate all you're doing for this, and thank you also to the City Attorney's Office for coming down today.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hahn is our next speaker, and then Mr. Rosendahl. Okay, that might be the speaker queue from the previous one coming back. Mr. Rosendahl, did you want to speak on this one?
Just for a second, I want to thank you, Jose, for what you're doing. It's obvious that the real solution in the long run is the reentry. We got to get rid of that stamp of felon, stopping a person from getting a job, getting an opportunity, getting anything out of life. A person can make a mistake, but we should have the ability to when you've paid for your mistake, be able to come back into society and be a productive member of society. Obviously, some of our federal laws and state laws are obviously right laws that we put them in place for purposes. And some of them, I frankly think, aren't, but people do come out of prison and they shouldn't be destroyed. The only way we're going to make this society whole is give everybody a second chance, and a reentry program gives a person a second chance. You look at who they are and where they want to go with their life. Otherwise, they'll be on the public dole, one way or the other, for the rest of their existence, and that taxpayer burden is ridiculous when, in fact, a person should be allowed to get back into the workforce and into the whole experience here of being a productive citizen. So thank you for pointing that out and moving us along in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. And with that, let's go ahead and prepare the roll, please, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Thank you. Sure, forthwith without objection on that one. We'll take up item number 3 now, and it's, is it Norman or Norma Welch? Is it Norman Welch, Mr. Welch? Here on item number 3? If not, that public hearing will stay open until the 8th, so we'll make sure we let Mr. or Ms. Welch know that, okay? If we can go ahead and continue item 3. Next item, please.
Next item is item number 48, and that was called special by Councilmember Alarcon.
I'd like to recognize Mr. Alarcon on item number 48.
Members, I just called this special to remind you, of course, of the 50/50 program. That's where the constituents who own properties adjacent to sidewalks are allowed to pay half the cost of the sidewalk, and the city will contribute the other half. I'm sure all of you have used that program. It's a very effective program, a very positive program. Unfortunately, though, the purchase the cost of reconstructing the sidewalk is borne at the front of the process, so sometimes it's quite costly on low and moderate income folks. And so I'm asking the department to come back with a report of how we might allow to expand the payment of the cost of the sidewalk so that people can find it more affordable. This really does nothing to affect our moving forward with the idea to bear the cost at the point of sale. This is for people who want to do it and intend to stay in their properties, and I believe it will greatly reduce costs and liability with regard to trip and falls, as you all are very familiar with. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that I'm hoping that we can come up with a program that would allow lower and working class folks to participate in the 50/50 program as well.
Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Alarcon. And this has been a successful program. When we first started it, we did a pilot in my district where we were able to actually increase by 20% the amount of sidewalks that we were able to do. And because of it being a pilot that year and then going citywide pretty quickly, one of the issues that we were equally concerned about was ensuring that all people were able to do that. And the
average cost is over $1,000, and for some people that is difficult to be able to immediately write that check. It may even be $1,300, $1,500. And so creating a system whereby individuals who may not have access immediately to those dollars, that they'd be able to participate in the 50/50 sidewalk program, because the statistics that we always talk about, and Mr. Rosendahl and I, which is it takes 85 years to fix sidewalks here in the city. It would take us 85 years to fix the existing sidewalks we know are broken today in the city of Los Angeles, that we have to look at creative ways to address that issue. And we have always fought in the Budget Committee to ensure that the 50/50 sidewalk program was in addition to a baseline of fixing sidewalks in the city of Los Angeles. So we look forward to having this payment option plan. Thank you, Mr. Alarcon, for your leadership on that, to be able to say this 50/50 sidewalk program is available to everyone and for people who want to pay over a period of time. Thank you, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gruhl. Mr. Rosendahl, excuse me.
Fixing more sidewalks is really our goal, and Richard, I appreciate what you're suggesting, and I look forward to a report back in our committee on where this goes. We have 80 years of sidewalks right now that must be repaired, and we can't repair them. That's why the point of sale issue, which will be coming before us, will allow us, when you sell your property, to be able to put monies aside for that, and in 10 to 12 years we can get that done. 50/50 program has been a fantastic success, and you're right, not everybody can afford at that very moment to pay for the 50/50, and in my district they use more than any other district, and they're using it again this year, but the fact is everybody should have an opportunity to participate in a cost-sharing program, an incentive program, and get our sidewalks fixed. So I just stand up and say I look forward to the process of where the Department of Public Works will report to our committee, Public Works Committee, and give us some insight into see what kind of options can be created for the 50/50 program to make it more effective. Thank you, Richard, for your thought on the subject.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. With that, let's prepare the roll on this item and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item is item 51, and that was called special by a card from the public.
Okay, we actually have two cards. We'll go out first to Van Nuys, Miriam Fogler, followed by Arnold Sachs here in council chambers. Ms. Fogler?
What number is this?
51.
Oh, 51. Okay. Yeah, why can't we use the block grants to help those people with the marijuana thing? That'd be something would be a good idea, instead of giving it to the CRA. They get the tax revenue from the property taxes, and then give that away to a very rich developers. Which like yesterday, I don't oppose private development, but I don't like public money, which is property taxes, being given to the CRA and then goes over to private developers, and that's how they're getting rich, and then that's how it trickles down to your campaign pockets, and that's how you get campaign money. So you got a conflict of interest here with the CRA running for elections, and that's why the block grants should be staying with the development department, or help us out with with the people who have the medical marijuana. Can it be possible that we can use the block grants to help these people with the medical marijuana, instead of giving it to the CRA? Because after all, the CRA's got plenty of money. They get plenty of money from the CRA. Of course, we have 800% foreclosures now. I guess they need the money from the block grants. The CRA is too poor. After all, they give the money away to the developers and then chase people off their properties through eminent domain. And this is not right. And make people sell their properties below market value, which in turn is causing inflation to inflate the price of property, making it hard for people to have affordable housing. And you turn around and you want to build houses to give away to the poor, which is, we need to be using our monies correctly here, not just to just give it to the rich and not give it to the people who really need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Arnold Sachs.
Good morning. Thank you again for letting me to speak, Councilman. I just have a few questions regarding this. Actually, the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Agency. When they made their presentation earlier this morning, and Councilman Alarcon had some questions for him. He repeatedly mentioned the Community Development Department. My questions are, is the CRA a public agency? When does it meet? And who sits on the CRA, or the Community Redevelopment Agency? And how are they different from the Community Development Department and the Housing, Community, and Economic Development Committee? If you could ask, I would respectfully ask for information regarding those three agencies and an explanation between the differences of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That closes our public comment for this item. If you'd like to call the office, we'll be happy to explain that, or if you'd like to talk to one of the clerks on the side, we can try to get you that information right now. Any council members who'd wish to be heard on this item? If not, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Thank you. Next item, pleplease.
Next item is item 54, and that was called special by card from the public.
Okay. Item 54 is next before us. Miriam Fogler in Van Nuys. Item number 54.
Yes, this is the fee waivers. And Sharon Brewer still has to tally up everything. And yesterday, Matt Dowd, you were incorrect because they don't pay back the city. And a lot of these places are, even though they're, it's a lot of the stuff that you don't see between the lines. That Sharon, she's very, very thorough. And she's going to be speaking after me. And when I talked about term limits, it's very relevant because, like, again, you use the block grants, you use the CRA to further your campaigns, and you use the fee waivers to get favors from people so they can continue your campaigns and for a third term. That's what you did with the Prop R. So, and of course, you're hoping that the city workers will cough up. Well, I'm hoping that you'll give them the cost of living, the COLAs, because this fee waivers are preventing them from getting it. Every time you're spending money here, every single week, you're saying, well, we should privatize to save money, but on the other hand, you're taking the money away from the city workers that should be given to them. This is the right to improve their medical benefits, everything. This is diverting essential services from our city, helping people with housing, helping people who are having medical marijuana. I'm trying to, accommodate everything here. The fee waivers are affecting all of us here, and you got to stop this. And especially, I hope you didn't get your cost of living increase July 1st, because the city workers need to get the same thing you are getting. It's not right. So, all of them, the police, fire, everybody. And just letting you know that I go along with Sharon Brewer, what she says about the fee waivers. This has got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes our public comment on this item. If we can prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item is special number 1, and that's the motion Weston Weiss regarding a reward.
Okay, actually, before we do special number 1, we had a speaker card for the closed session item, which we will be hearing in a little bit. If we can take that up, Ms. Brewer, I know on item number 61, you had filled out a speaker card before we go into closed session. Before we take up the special, why don't you go ahead and give us your comments?
All right, thank you. Item number 63 on Burger King. I believe the Burrito King
I have a card for 61. Was that an error?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm all messed up. Sorry. Burrito King, I believe that Burrito King did sue the city in the 1990s about food concessions. Council File 97-0300, Woodley Lakes Golf Course, January 9, 2001, transmitted from Ronald Katzman relative to award of the Woodley Lakes Golf Course food service concession contract to Burrito King, Inc., January 10, 2001, referred to Arts, Health, and Humanities Committee. October 10, 2001, Arts, Health, and Humanities Committee report adopted to disapprove award contract to Burrito King and instruct Department of Recreation and Parks to proceed with a mini request for proposal process for Woodley Lakes Golf Course food service concession contract. April 29, 2002, transmittal from Board of Recreation and Parks Commission relative to not releasing an RFP seeking an operator for the concession at Woodley Lakes due to award to Burrito King. Recreation and Parks General Manager Report 03348, November 5, 2003. Mutual termination of concession contract for Woodley Clubhouse food service and buyout of operator equipment and improvements. This had to do with buying out Burrito King contract that Rec and Parks was told not to award. Basically, Burrito King said buy out his contract or he would sue the city. I received the following from Recreation and Parks, April 28, 2007. It's February 9, 2001. Burrito King was given a permit to operate the mobile food service in the Sepulveda Basin. It was a one-year revocable permit, and it took effect February 1st, 2001, and shall expire January 31st, 2002. November 30th, 2005, letter to Burrito King. They extended it. It was only supposed to go until November 30th, 2005, and they were supposed to put out it'd be a month-to-month and put out an RFP, and to date, they still have not put out an RFP for that contract in the basin.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brewer. We can go ahead and open. Oh, no, sorry, this is a closed session item, so we will be taking that up in closed session. We have special one now before us. Mr. City Attorney on the findings.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since the posting of today's agenda, the Los Angeles Police Department has requested assistance in obtaining information leading to the arrest of the suspect who shot and killed Michael Presley on July 15th at 4565 West Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Immediate action is required to offer a reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the suspect to protect the safety of the community. Council must first make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Anybody else on the findings? If not, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote on the findings.
11 ayes.
Thank you. That's now before us. Anybody wishing to be heard? If Mr. Wesson? Okay.
Just for a moment, thank you, Mr. President. I really don't have much more to say than the city attorney already said, except for this young man was only 19 years old. This happened on a Sunday at 9 p.m. 3 individuals in what's believed to be a Dodge Stratus pulled up, yelled some gang sayings or what have you, and they shot this young man 2 or 3 times. This young man was not a member of a gang. Michael Presley was a student, a full-time student at Cal State Northridge, where he was majoring in criminal justice, and he worked part-time to help pay for his education. If anyone out there has any information about this crime that took place Sunday, July 15th, at approximately 9 p.m., please call detectives at this number, 213-485-2417. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wesson. With that, let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
And we'll send that forthwith without objection to get that out right away. And is that the end of the open session items? Yes? Okay.
Yes, that's all we have left.
Okay. We'll now, in accordance with California state law, go into closed session to take up legal matters before us. We will come back into open session if there are any votes that are required, and we will announce those publicly. So if we can clear the council chambers, and we will come back after we are finished with those cases. Thank you. Open in session. We have a couple items, Mr. City Attorney, if you'll please, or Madam Clerk, if you'll tell us which ones we're voting on that we voted on in closed session.
Item number 1 was continued to July 27th, so the only item that we're voting on is item number 63.
Okay, if you'll please open the roll. Oh, sorry, Mr. City Attorney, the settlement.
Yes, for the record, item number 63, it's the City Attorney's recommendation to pay $400,000 in attorney's fees, and the plaintiff class members will also be paid up to $670 in back pay from the Los Angeles Police Department salary accounts.
Okay. Please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote. Okay, that is approved. 10 ayes. Thank you.
10 ayes.
And now it's time for any announcements. Colleagues, any procedural announcements?
Can we move item 30 forthwith, please?
Yes, forthwith without objection. In those 2 seconds that we still had a quorum. We no longer have a quorum, but do folks have any announcements they'd like to make? Mr. Uzain.
I have an announcement. I have a presentation for Marisol Sabrina Espinoza, my district director, who's been accepted to Columbia on a master's program. She's going to be leaving the city. She's been a wonderful representative, working the field, working legislative, and now she's going to Columbia. Come on up forward. Be on television, Marisol. Well, she's going to Colombia, but I pronounce it Colombia, and they think she's going to the other country, the country of Colombia, but she's going to Columbia, New York. And she's been a wonderful, she used to work for Bob Hertzberg, California State Assembly, just a wonderful, wonderful lady. So we're going to miss you, Marisol Sabrina Espinoza.
And it's a great school you're going to. Congratulations. Absolutely. All right. With that, any other announcements, business announcements, colleagues? If not, this meeting is adjourned for the Los Angeles City Council. We will next be in session this Friday, the 27th of July at 10 a.m. Have a great day.
No, we'll do a picture in the